I hereby call to order this meeting of the Arizona Boxing and Mixed Martial Arts Commission. Today is Wednesday, October 21st, 2020, and the time is 10:04 a.m. With those commissioners that are in attendance, please identify themselves and state as to whether they are attending via Zoom call, telephone, or in person.
This is Joe Pennington. I'm participating by Zoom and phone call.
And I am Scott Fletcher. I, too, am participating by Zoom and phone call. Thank you for attending, everyone. I hope this finds you and yours healthy and safe. We continue to live in interesting times, so I appreciate you taking the time to get with us today. Let's dive right into it. B is our old business, B1 being the status of the commission, and the first item is an update on COVID protocols. Mr. Meneses.
Yes, sir. As you guys remember, at the last meeting, we were still working through the COVID protocols, and we were trying to get the buy-in that we needed from the appropriate different entities so that we could move forward. While I was out last week, we got the final input from risk management that they wanted or they recommended that we adopt or change some of the language. So we did. We're actually going to put up on the screen the current COVID protocol the way it stands. I am recommending a slight modification. I did run this by risk management, and they had no concerns with this modification. So will you zoom in a little bit, Carlo, please? All right, this should be on your screen. You see it?
Yes.
Okay. So pretty much everything remains the same according to risk. The changes that I am recommending is that we strike the second paragraph where it says entering the venue or, and that is pertaining to spectators and non-essential personnel. I recommend we strike that and we add the language in red, which says that the commission may approve an event with public spectators on a case-by-case basis and must consider the latest guidance from the Arizona Department of Health Services and local health officials when granting such approval. The guidance may limit the maximum occupancy of an event to further mitigate risks for exposure. The AZDHS website has guidance for a lot of different venues for returning back to somewhat of normalcy. And if you go to the website and look at it, the best thing that is closest to, I guess, what we're trying to do would be the guidance for theaters or the guidance for gyms and fitness centers. So we've looked at that. That recommends, limiting the occupancy to a percentage based on what the outbreak is or what the pandemic numbers are in that county. So, for instance, it's very easy to navigate. You go to the AZDHS website, you enter the county in which you are looking at doing an event, the type of event using either the theater or the gym model, and then enter some of the details, and the AZDHS system will come back with what is recommended to be safe. So in looking at that, I think that we could safely modify this language to include allowing public spectators on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. Mr. Meneses. Questions, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, I like that change. I think it gives us more flexibility. It also allows us to control the situation as we need to, given the exposure within the county or the entire state. So I like the change.
I agree completely, Commissioner. We need some flexibility. Things can change on a daily basis. So I agree. Mr. Meneses, if we were to adopt this, is a vote required?
Yeah, I have a vote required. I have one more change that I didn't get to put on here. I'm just going to point out real quick just to be consistent with this paragraph. Carlo, if you'll scroll down to the commission section, second paragraph. Okay, the second paragraph starts with no person shall be granted access to the venue, including event-related areas. I think we should strike the no person shall be granted access, leave that, and then we should strike the words to the venue, including event-related areas to leave it to read that no person shall be granted access to the commission-identified restricted areas without a negative COVID-19 test. So just striking out the word venue, including event-related areas. That would be consistent with the adding this other paragraph. So if you guys are in agreement with those changes, then yes, a vote to adopt those changes and make this protocol effective as of today's date would be proper, I believe.
Thank you. The chair is
So,
open.
Mr. Meneses, are we saying basically line out granted access, then line out to the venue, comma, including event-related areas, or so that it simply reads granted access, shall be granted access to commission-identified restricted areas. Okay, I see what you're saying.
It might be a question we can maybe ask Ms. Wagner if we have to go through and actually list that, or if we can just, if we can summarize that the updates I gave the commission today can be updated. Ms. Wagner?
As long as the commission indicates or has a common practice as far as what the commission designated areas are, that it's not something that would be changing every time, but there's a commonality that promoters and spectators and whatnot would understand what that is, then it would be fine to have just the general statement. If that's going to be changing every time and it's not consistent, then it probably would need to be spelled out.
Okay, so so correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but Mr. Pennington, I think we can vote to adopt the recommended language changes in the document, and perhaps the commission can just ask for a copy when that's done. But we can give the executive director, myself, approval to make those changes and implement the document as discussed.
Mr. Chairman, if a motion is in order, I would move that we adopt the COVID protocols as amended and discussed in our meeting today. And once, if that is approved, that we receive a copy of the final document.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion. I will second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0. Thank you, Commissioner.
So I will update that today, and I will get that back out to both of you by the end of business today so that we can move forward with implementing that new COVID protocol.
Okay, great. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you both for your time and effort on this. I'm glad to have gotten to this point. Next up, let's talk about the high-risk liability waiver. Mr. Meneses.
Yes, sir. So in talking with risk management, although all of our license applications do have an indemnification and liability waiver when someone is applying for a license, due to the unique circumstances surrounding COVID-19, it has been recommended that we also use the liability waiver that we have used in the past for athletes wishing to compete who have a higher risk of injury due to a medical condition. And we use that same extra waiver to address the specific condition of COVID-19 and any potential exposure to COVID-19. Some promoters are choosing to do their own as well. It's encouraged that they have their own liability release as well. And the commission will maintain one as well. And the liability release would be signed by anyone working the event. That includes officials, corners, athletes. Everyone would be required to sign both the commission, and then if the promoter has it as a requirement of their bout agreement, then they would sign that as well. You guys have seen this waiver before. The only thing is just plugging in the past. There's a blank spot for the medical condition in which we are addressing, such as a high blood pressure we put in the past or whatever. This time we'll just simply on number B where it says condition, we would simply just put COVID-19 and have everyone go through this and sign, understanding that they are assuming a higher than normal risk by competing during the times of COVID. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Meneses. Commissioner, thoughts, questions?
I have no real questions on that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And
Can we just vote, just so that we have it consistent, can we just vote to adopt
Sure.
that every licensee will sign one of these prior to an event?
Absolutely. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, if a motion is in order, I would move that we adopt the Arizona Boxing and Mixed Martial Arts Commission assumption of risk, release and waiver of liability and indemnification agreement as provided in our meeting today.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion. I will second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0. Thank you again. I think we're making progress little by little. Let's jump into our new business. Item 1 is Iron Boy Promotions, the first piece being COVID operational plan. Mr. Meneses.
All right, I think we have Mr. Vargas on the call. Roberto, if you'll get him, Carlo, if you'll get him unmuted so he can be ready. So Mr. Vargas did submit a COVID protocol to go with the next item on the agenda as well, the request for the private event. The COVID protocol does outline and address the concerns that we have addressed in our COVID protocols. It is a little out of order. I have talked with his staff today, and they are working on just mirroring the order of the 10-point plan. But we were able to go out on Monday out to the potential venue and do a tour with the fire marshal, the event coordinator, and the promotion. This COVID protocol matches everything that we've asked, and they've been able to identify a way to have the athletes and everyone tested at the single location within the requirements of the event, 3 days in advance of the event, and the specific tests that were required. So other than having the COVID protocols modified to match what our layout is and what was requested of Iron Boy, I have no other issues with it. So I would recommend that the commission, if you guys have had an opportunity to look at it, that we approve it contingent upon that it is updated accordingly by the end of business day today.
Thank you, Mr. Meneses. Commissioner Pennington, thoughts, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have no real questions about the COVID protocol from Iron Boy, the operational plan. As long as by the end of the business today, it does meet Mr. Meneses' requirement. So if that's if a motion is in order, I would move that we approve the Iron Boy Promotions COVID operational plan with the changes as outlined by Mr. Meneses, and that be done by the end of the day.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion. I will second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0. Okay, let's jump into this event request if we can. It's an event request for a private boxing event on October 29th, 2020 at Westworld of Scottsdale. Mr. Meneses.
Yeah, so like as I mentioned, I had an opportunity to go out and see this venue just on Monday with the fire marshal. This is a 120,000 square foot venue. It's quite long. Talking with the event planner, they will have approximately 500 people in attendance. The tables will have 5 persons at each table with every other seat occupied. Every table will be kept at 8 feet distance from back to back. And then we have requested that there is a 15-foot solid barrier all the way around the ring and all sides. That will allow for the commission and judges to sit approximately 6 feet back from the ring, and it'll allow for a 9-foot barrier from the back of those officials to the start of the spectators. All spectators will receive a temperature check upon arriving to the venue, and all will be required to wear their masks when they're not sitting at their table having dinner. One of the things that I think made me a little bit more comfortable about this event with having fans is the fact that it's a private event and that the catering company has a full list of everyone that'll be there. The event planner has a full list and contact information of everyone that'll be in attendance. And then obviously the commission does as well. And we've all agreed to be very open and transparent in our communication, and that we will all do 2-week follow-ups with our list of personnel, and we will communicate any negative outcomes, any illnesses, any symptoms with the others, so that we can keep our groups advised, and they have their peace of mind of, knowing that no one came down sick, or if someone did, and what kind of exposure they had to that person. For size reference, we did an event with this promotion last year out at Rawhide and their event center. And we tried calling this morning to get the exact square footage to kind of give you a reference. But I can tell you that from looking at this alone, this is probably 2 to 2.5 times the size of that Rawhide event. And talking to the fire marshal, that the floor space that this event planner is choosing to occupy, the fire marshal said he has approved in the past, prior to COVID, up to 3,500 to 5,000 people in that space, and they're only using 500. So it's significantly scaled down, and they are still only using about, spreading all the tables out and stuff, I would say barely over half of the full entire space available. So it does mitigate a lot of my concerns. I reached out to all of our officials, gave them the option as well, whether or not they wanted to work the event, informed them that, the testing that we had put forth would be done, explain to them the amount of people that will be here, the precautions being taken and spacing, the fact that the athletes will have individualized dressing rooms that are spread out and spaced from the rest of the guests, and the fact that we will have a safe path to walk from the dressing room in and out of the ring also, puts me more at ease on one of these kind of events. So I don't have a lot of concern at this point moving forward. I think that most of these things have been identified, and this is a significantly large space. So I recommend the commission, consider all the things. This would need to go back before the commission for a vote, because the commission is the one that formally suspended events due to COVID. So I present it to you guys for consideration and whether or not we are ready to resume.
Thank you, Mr. Meneses. Commissioner Pennington, what are your thoughts about this event?
Well, I'd like for Mr. Meneses to talk to us about or inform us on what the ventilation is likely to be there. I mean, one of the issues with the COVID is not having adequate ventilation. So if Mr. Meneses could address that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize. That's one of the things that I wanted to address. That is another thing that helps make me more comfortable. Is this venue has the service doors on either side of the building, so on both sides, that are about the size of a garage door, and I would say there's at least 6 on either side, so about 12 giant garage doors. Almost the entire one side was open when we were there touring on Monday, but the event planner did delegate the authority to which doors to open up to the commission. They said, whatever doors you guys feel would help the ventilation, you guys can pick which doors you would like open during the event. So the ring will be staged more closer to the south side of the building, and we can open 2 doors on either side of the ring, so it'll open and have a lot of ventilation in addition to the normal circulatory system or circulation system going on that's already in place.
Thank you, Mr. Meneses.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Meneses, if I may, a couple questions. I've attended 8 or 9 of the NAIOP events. They are spirited events with a good-sized crowd. There's a fair amount of eating and drinking going on, and we have very little control over those 500 people. I think barriers are good. I think the fact it's open air. I know the arena well, and it's big and spacious. I'm concerned about our personnel, the contestants and their handlers, cornermen and the like, the people directly related to this event, not so much the crowd there to see it. And I desperately want to keep both sides separated. I know we've worked really hard on that. Tell me about bathrooms. Do commission personnel have access to a bathroom? Yeah,
so there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of bathrooms inside this venue. There is one set of bathrooms that'll be just adjacent to the red and blue corner locker rooms, and that'll be dedicated only for the athletes in their corners. There is another pair of bathrooms that will be in the staging area, and that one will be dedicated for officials. And then there are restrooms that are around the table area and the common area that'll be available for the spectators. So we're able to keep them separate. I know in the past with NAIOP, it has been a lively crowd, and they do typically have several hundred, if not 1,000. I think last year was 2,500 people in attendance. I did bring that up to the event organizer, and we talked about those concerns. And she has already communicated the need for people to remain at their table as much as possible, to keep their masks on, to avoid the traditional gathering and socializing that we typically see at this event. They've followed our recommendations of putting hand sanitizing stations throughout the venue. I'm counting 7, 8, 9, 10 sanitizing stations spread around the seating area on all sides, including the restroom. And like I said, the commission will have 15 feet all around from the ring, and we will have a dedicated clear walkway path with about 12 feet on either side, 6 feet on either side, 12 feet wide when entering and exiting the ring. So we will able to keep all those people separate. The athletes will be required, everyone will be required to wear their masks. The athlete's mask will only come off once they have reached the ring and they are preparing to enter the ring. The referees will have their masks on the entire time as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manessa. Speaking of masks, the folks that are eating and drinking aren't required to be wearing masks at that time, correct?
Correct. That's why we'll do the garage door. We brought that concern up, and that's where we looked at these garage doors, and we've asked that they be open. And looking at right now, there are 10 on either side, on the east and the west side, and then there are an additional 4 on both the north and south side. So we really could open almost every single wall and have full air in there. So it's almost really an outdoor event except for the roof. So we can go as much as we need to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if we're to go ahead with this, I'd love to limit everyone's amount of time in that room and how many people are in that room.
One good thing to bring up about that, limiting people's time is that in the past, as you remember, the locker room or staging room for athletes has been basically just pipe and drape in the back of this conference hall. This is a little different. They actually have a dedicated hard-walled room that is outside and down a walkway. So we will be completely separate from this crowd up until the time the event starts, and then it'll only be one at a time walking in, and the next fight will not even walk out to the ring until the whole ring is cleared, sanitized, and everything is back to being reset.
Okay, thank you. I think it's been thought through carefully. I know Roberto puts on great events. It's just in this day and age, it's tricky, especially with the number of people we're talking about. I know we're going to take temperatures at the door. Again, my concern is commission personnel, contestants, and their people, anyone related to this event, getting them in and out of there carefully. I'd love for us, if we do go forward with this, to go back to our personnel and give them an out if they don't feel comfortable with this at all, Francisco.
Sure. And we've done that when we did the initial contact, and I'll gladly do it again. And we advised them that anyone choosing not to work this event will not be, it will not affect their future assignments. We understand that health and safety comes first, and, choosing to put your own health and safety over an assignment is absolutely not an issue for us. So we've already stressed that, and we'll stress it again. As you mentioned, the temperature checks. But the thing that, like I said, gives me a lot of peace of mind is the communication that we've already had with the event promoter. We've worked with her in the past, her catering crew, and then having all the contact information so that if someone does come down, we can immediately try to contain the virus and contain the spread by identifying who is sick and what kind of contact they had with others. The fact that we are the commission and the commission crew, such as the athletes and their corners, the fact that we have a separate area, we're in a separate building, even staged, so we're not even sharing the same air while we're staged. It's really only during the fight, and we're looking at probably only going with 4, maybe 5 fights.
Thank you. Commissioner Pennington, what are your thoughts here?
Mr. Chairman, I think that a lot of effort has gone into the planning of this. And I think that the vast majority, overwhelming majority of issues have been thought through and have been dealt with. I'm sure that things will come up at the event if it is approved that we can use and learn from. I have a lot of faith in our personnel, Mr. Meneses, and the other officials in being able to respond if there is any sort of incident. So I'm would be very delighted if we can get this going on October the 29th.
Okay, thank you.
And if a motion is in order, or when one is, I'd be happy to make it.
Okay, thank you. I think if we do this, I think we'll learn a lot of things. I think we'll be in a better position moving forward. We have kept Joel Lopez locked up in chains for a few months now, and I'd love to do a event with him when and if he's ready to do so. So I see this as a way forward, but I still have some reservations about it too. I want everyone to get out of there cleanly and put us in a position to move forward too. Mr. Meneses, I would love for you to have access to a mic if we need to remind this crowd what they have to do for us to continue on too. Because it's a
so we've talked about that.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I did talk about that, and the announcer will, at the start of the event, midway through the event, will make announcements reminding people to wear their masks when they're up from their table. The event coordinator said that they will also be making announcements, and they'll have a microphone as well. And then her and I will be in direct communication throughout the event. If there's any other issues that need to be addressed, she said she will promptly address those. I informed her, and I informed Mr. Vargas when we did our walkthrough, that I think most of our promoters know that I'm pretty strict and a pretty big stickler for the rules. And I told them that this would be definitely no exception, as this is a health and safety issue, and I will not be giving or bending or giving any leeway on these requirements, because we have to put the health and safety first. So they're all aware of that, and we will all work together to make sure that it is communicated in the seriousness and that we all follow the rules.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meneses. I unfortunately won't be there. My daughter was just diagnosed, and I'm locked up for a couple of weeks, so it's best I not be there.
Sure.
The chair would be open to a motion if there is one.
Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry. Before you make that motion, can I make one last point? One last point is that I've informed both the event coordinator and Mr. Vargas that we are continually checking the AZDHS data every single day, and that right now we are at about 17 to 19% hospital availability. And as the recommendation from our ringside physician came at a prior meeting, if we are approaching or getting under that 10% availability, the commission will suspend events for health and safety. So Mr. Vargas has understood that up until the day of weigh-ins, we will continue to check that data, and the commission may suspend the event if the data does not reflect favorably on the day of weigh-ins.
Thank you, Mr. Meneses. The chair is still open to a motion, if there is one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant a private, what am I trying to say here? It's a request, it's an event request, I'm sorry. I move that we approve an event request from Iron Boy Promotions for a boxing event on October the 29th, 2020 at Westworld in Scottsdale, noting that this is a private event and is not generally open to the public.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion. I am going to second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0. Thank you for all your efforts on this, Mr. Meneses, Mr. Vargas, everybody involved. I know it's been a handful trying to get to here.
Yes.
Let's press on to the call to the commission. Commission members or the executive director may introduce a summary of current events, ask questions, and or make comments. Mr. Meneses, you have anything for us?
Other than, what we just kind of went through, I was out for a few weeks. When we came back, we were able to work through this pretty quickly and get everything that we needed. So I think you guys are pretty update of where we are as a commission and ready to start events. This, passing this protocol and getting this event started will definitely give us a look of potential future events. I know that Bob Carmel is on the call, as well as Thiago, and they are wanting to do an event in December. They sent me this week their COVID protocols, which I am going to start reviewing now that we're done with this one, and put it on the very next commission meeting, which will be the beginning of November, for consideration. So we can start working to allow our outside sanctioning bodies to begin resuming as well. So, Bob, I know you're on here, and you can chime in a few minutes if you're ready to say something. But we do have it, and we're working for it, and we'll put it on the we'll put it on the next commission meeting so that we can review and consider that. Other than that, I think that it's we're trying to get back to business as usual. I've talked to some other states about resuming, and kind of gotten their feedback of the troubles that we face normally already during an event. But now we're putting on this pandemic during it. They did caution that you should expect to lose at least one bout per event due to either a true positive or a false positive. So we are continuing to communicate and the expectations with the promotions. But that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Meneses. Commissioner Pennington.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further comments or questions.
Okay, neither do I at this point. Let's chat with the public. E is the call to the public. Those members wishing to chat with us, we would ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Who would like to chat? I see Bob Carmel. I see Mr. Lopez raise his hand. Mr. Meneses.
Carlos going to unmute Bob first.
Okay.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I've been approached by Siam Productions. They're eager to get their tournament back off the ground in late December. I've had communications with them, which I have copied Francisco on, asking them for information on their protocols for taking care of everything. This is a unique situation in that it is a tournament. It's multi-day. We're looking at probably 200 competitors and probably 20 to 25 officials. I don't have numbers at the time on staff as far as security and in-house people. So this is a big event with a lot of problems to overcome to allow this to be put on. What I'm sort of asking right now is, in that I am sanctioning amateur events that the commission doesn't really sanction, okay? What are my responsibilities to the commission with the new protocols that we need to meet? I am assuming that it would be the same as normal, where I am supposed to adhere to what the state does at minimum or better to approve events, okay? So it sort of puts us in a weird situation. Like, you just introduced a new waiver. Do I have to use that waiver for our competitors also, because the state's not really sanctioning that event? Also, I think, Francisco, you and I need to set up a time on the phone to kind of go over all these things little by little, so I know what I need to do, as this is all new to all of us, and I will take all the help I can get in seeing to it that the Siam production people do everything correctly so we can be safe and hopefully get this event off.
Hey, Bob, I know you and I talked prior to this about us working together. I think you're going to come out to one of our first events, and I was going to come out to your event so we can do this together. I'm still all for that. We can work together to have you come out next week to that event so you can shadow. there's some, I think, legality questions when it comes to what USMTA needs to adhere to. So definitely you and I can get together offline and try to iron through some of those. And then I'd be happy to go through that COVID protocol with you as well. It is going to require some testing. It's probably going to require us to do some outside the box thinking because it is so many people and there's so many days involved. And we're trying to keep everyone staggered and separated and spaced out. So we'll definitely need to work through that and think through outside the box. But I appreciate you sent that. You and Thiago had sent that early enough that I think you guys sent it this week, and we have until December. So let's I think in the next 2 weeks, let's definitely work get together and work that. And if Thiago wants to be on that call, we can. And that way, when we come back for our November meeting, we can submit and answer all those questions the commission may have.
Sounds like a plan.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Thiago. You guys being out in front of this makes it possible. These last things this time of year doesn't work. So thank you both. Who's next?
Mr. Lopez is next.
Mr. Lopez, good morning.
Carlo's unmuting him right now. There you go.
Okay, there he is.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Francisco, Carlos, Carlo. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. As you know, we've been searching for answers for a long time. Being that we were the first MMA promotion probably in the country to provide a COVID protocol, it's kind of a bittersweet moment for me because, as much as I want to see these events go on, and congratulations, Robert, for, Vargas for being the first to do a show. We were hoping that we would have been the first ones to do a show, post-COVID. But nevertheless, I see that things went pretty fast for him, and we just feel a little bit dismayed about the whole thing because we haven't got any answers. Our COVID protocol hasn't been reviewed, wasn't even talked about. As a matter of fact, the protocol that I just read probably mirrors ours almost to the T. And so, I'm just a little annoyed by that. But nevertheless, whatever the case, whatever the reason that's for, we've been waiting for 6 months for an opportunity. And we just want to know if we're going to be given an opportunity here to put our event request because we haven't been told we could do that. And the news to find out today that you guys are holding a boxing event and that you guys move pretty swiftly on it kind of shows a little bit unfairness towards us. And I'm not I'm not too happy about that. We've been fighting. We lost a lot of money. We lost 15 contracts this year. We lost over $500,000, and we are right now forced to do grappling events for December 5th because we have had no news whatsoever as to putting on any kind of MMA shows. Trust me, every other day, me and my team meet and saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We've looked at going to Costa Rica. We've looked at going to Mexico. And here I find out that Arizona has opened up the opportunity for other promoters to put an event request. Can you give me an answer how that happened and we weren't given an opportunity to put an event request? We had 2 event requests and nobody told me anything. So I had to request refunds, which took 2 months to get my refunds back from the Arizona Department of Gaming. So if you can clarify to me what can we do at this point and why did that happen? And has our COVID protocol been even reviewed at this point?
So as I mentioned earlier on the call that, so I was out, and when I returned last week is when we were notified that the COVID protocol had been changed and had been approved through risk management. I sent an email to all promoters, which I believe you were CC'd on Friday, advising you guys that we were ready to move forward and anyone wanted to. You were still in the process of requesting your refund, so we went through with that. But all promoters were notified on Friday. Mr. Vargas set up a meeting on Monday to go look at the venue, submitted everything to try to get it in on time, and here we are. So that he was given the same opportunity as everybody else. It was sent out Friday. He opted to jump on it. You were still pushing for your refund.
It wasn't clear to us that we were given an opportunity to put in an event request. Otherwise, I would have done it that Friday. Or I would have said, forget about the refunds and let's just go with our October fight. But it's
still
here or there, it's going to happen, with or without us. But we want to have the same opportunity, fairness, to move forward as we have been trying for 6 months now, trying to figure all this out and sending multiple requests about what's going on, leaving fighters in the dark. Like I said, it's just been a wreck for us. And to find out that there's going to be an event is kind of, But in any case, so you're saying that we are allowed to put in now event requests for the future now from starting today?
Yep, as per my email on Friday, you guys are welcome to try to pursue an event and submit a COVID protocol. Your COVID protocol was not reviewed because it had not our COVID protocols had not been approved and updated. Last week they were approved the risk management, so anything that comes in that matches that will be reviewed and considered. And if you want to put an event request in for a future date, we'll go through the same process.
Okay, so do we need to resubmit our COVID protocol to you, or do we need to redo a new one?
Yep. So the commission just adopted additional changes from what risk management did last week. So there will be another update to the COVID protocol, and that'll go out later today. And then you can double check to make sure your COVID protocol mirrors that and matches any questions there. You submit it, it'll get reviewed, and you can submit your event request. If you have an event that is prior to the next meeting, I will talk to the commissioners about putting a special meeting on so they can review and consider.
Okay.
Thank you. Joel, I appreciate your comments. I share your frustration. As a commission, we've been pretty much locked down for the past 6 months. We finally got to a place where we have COVID protocols in place, and we're in a position where we can start talking about events. I'd love to do a show with you as soon as you can. And I share your frustration. It's been a terrible 6 months for many, including yourself. Who else, Mr. Meneses, shall we chat with? Mr. Azaredo would like to chat. I know that.
There you go. He's open.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Jones is also in line, too.
Hello again. It's been a while. Been put on pause and pushed back for 6 months like everybody else. But I just want to first thank the commission and Bob Carmel for working with us on this event. The Muay Thai community has been at a standstill. There has been no events for them, and where they're pretty much their last hope for a competition. And I want to reassure you guys that we're very committed to making the event safe. We're definitely probably one of the frontiers on open mind and thinking outside the box to get the job done. And Bob knows that. And we've always played by the book. So I'm grateful for you guys for considering our event, and look forward to talking to you, Francisco, about and Bob about getting it done. And I'm confident that we can make it happen.
Thiago, thank you.
Yeah, we'll set something up by Friday. Yeah, Thiago and Bob will get something set up by Friday so we can do a call.
Yeah, please do. I appreciate how thorough you guys are. 200 contestants is it's a lot of cats to herd. And
there was a huge tournament in the venue that we were at, a jiu-jitsu tournament with 600 spectator athletes all in that room. And from what I understand, there were no COVID spread. And
yeah, they called those super spreader events.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just baffled at the fact that there was no, like, you would think a grappling tournament would spread like crazy, but there was no issues. I guess nobody really got anything from the event, and so we're obviously way more stringent with our safety protocols. We've been talking to Bob for weeks now on getting it, down to, matching your protocols or going above and beyond, being that it's a multiple day event. And I like I said, I'm very confident that we can get this done and done in a safe manner. So.
Thiago, Scott Fletcher, have you guys considered an outdoor venue by chance? Never thought about that?
Yeah, we have considered it. There's some issues with my partners. We've had some issues finding a good venue that would fit all of the requirements that we need.
Mm-hmm.
So we found one that has a massive garage door, and it's almost like it's a basketball court with a huge garage door that allows awesome ventilation. Being that I'm assuming we might not have spectators, all we really need is a garage door and proper ventilation. A huge ventilation system that would allow for athletes to just come in, compete, and leave. There's no warm-up area. There's no anything. It's just literally they walk in, they compete, and they leave. And our communication will be done via our system that we have for our tournament system. So they would be on their phones digitally and know when they compete. They come in, compete, they walk out. And so that way in the winter at 8 a.m, our athletes aren't freezing to death.
True that. Thank you, Thiago. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
I know Brandon Jones wanted to chat with us.
Yes, I kind of just want to reiterate everything my wonderful partner, Thiago Azeredo, said. We appreciate you guys doing the work that you do at the commission. Thank you, Mr. Meneses, and everyone on the commission and board, and Bob Carmel for, obviously making sure that Muay Thai and the amateur side of things in Arizona is as safe as it can be for the athletes and officials and spectators alike. We like to think of ourselves as organizational leaders in this industry, with leading edge technology, things for, keeping our documents in line and having, as you'll see in some of our submitted things, a full event guide and organizational plan even prior to having to implement any special addendums for this event. So I just wanted to say, that we are willing to do anything that we need to do. The community is chomping at the bit for events, and we're hearing of people traveling to different states that have no regulation. And the thing that makes us nervous is that if we don't hold and we've heard from officials that have officiated our events, is that if we don't do our event, they're going to go other places that are unsafe and have unsafe protocols. So such as there's an event that normally I think is in California, they moved to Mexico and there's not a lot of protocols in place there, unfortunately. And we believe that we can do the right job here in Arizona. And so we'd like to adhere to all the CDC guidelines, the protocols, but also keeping in mind that other events are happening in other martial arts that are definitely a lot closer quarters. And, I believe that we can do a great job and keep everybody safe. And just again, thank you guys for hearing us and examining what our plans are. We believe the venue will meet all the criteria, keeping people outdoor, like the commissioner also had stated, for most of the event. So they're only indoors when they're in the competition area or on deck to compete. And of course, having all those stations, sanitized stations, only one exit and entry to create that bubble barrier for the space, and make sure nobody enters without documentation of having that negative PCR test and all the other protocols. So again, just thank you all. Thank you, Bob, and the Arizona Gaming Boxing Commission.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. And just to touch real quick on that, and I'm glad you brought up the PCR testing. Shows that you have some understanding of the type of testing we're looking at. A lot of people will get confused over the testing, and that's what one of the things that I'll work through, and you can be on the call as well if you'd like. But when we're doing these events and we're talking about testing, it's imperative that that the promotions and the outside sanction bodies are using the tests that are approved by the commission and the COVID protocols. Many companies that you try to call in and partner with are going to try to get you, they're a business, They're trying to make money, so they're going to try to sell you on the cheaper test. Hey, let's do this one. It's FDA approved, yada, yada, yada. Maybe FDA approved, but it's not commission approved. And the reason is because some of these tests do not have as high as a sensitivity. So I'm glad that you understood that in the PCR, and we'll talk more about which tests are approved and the sensitivity of those tests. But it sounds like you already have done some research and you're on the right track for that.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Who else wants to chat with us?
Carlo doesn't have anyone else on standby.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I appreciate the input. Pressing on, item F is an announcement that the next regularly scheduled commission meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, and is subject to change based on a quorum, which leads us to item G, the notion of adjournment. Is there a motion for such?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
We have a motion. I'm going to second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0. Thank you all. We're going to get there. Stay safe, be good, and have faith.
All right, we are finished. Time is 10:54. Thank you so much.